Right, hello and welcome. This isn't the video I thought I was going to be doing today, to be honest. Very worrying events happening in the Ukraine. I think it's fair to say that Russia is now at war with the Ukraine. Just feels bizarre just saying it. So it's uncertain how things will play out over the next weeks or months with the Ukraine and the surrounding areas. One thing is certain, is that because of the takedown of the communication structures that are happening in the Ukraine, there will be a need for civilian radio, ham radio, to play a part. Now, currently in the Ukraine, ham radio is basically banned because of the emergency, the state of emergency in the Ukraine. So ham radio at the moment is banned, just to try and keep some sort of law and order. However, I have a feeling that will change as things progress with this invasion. What I want to do in this video is just to emphasize that us amateur ham radio people and shortwave listeners, we do have a role to play here, a very important role in not getting involved, keeping frequencies clean and clear. We have a responsibility for those people who are in the Ukraine, those areas, to maintain their safety. But what I want to do is actually just to look at some of the places where we may hear some radioactivity. One of the things that would be useful really is to look at three areas of amateur and commercial radio from the Ukraine and the surrounding areas. One is the broadcast stations on medium wave. Another is looking at the use of the repeaters in the Ukraine that are connected to DMR, D-Star, C4FM, and then we've got HF that may play a part in this as well. There's a Wikipedia page that will list out the current active radio stations in the Ukraine, and you can tell by the frequencies on the left where to look for them, on whether it's on a web SDR or like I have here. I've got the amateur radio equipment and I can tune in and try and find some activity. There's a little activity on one of the stations at the moment. Whether that's pre-broadcast or live, I don't know yet. We have to be mindful as well that there's surrounding areas like the Belarus and a few of those areas that are going to be on a heightened state of alert as well. And it's possible that their radio stations, their communication networks could be affected, because this isn't going to be a surgical strike by the Russians by the looks of it. I'm no expert in this kind of stuff, but it looks really scary, to be honest. The second place to look is that there is quite an active DMR community in the Ukraine, and I'll share the link to the site where you can look up the DMR rooms and the cross-linking. So whether you've got D-Star, whether you've got DMR capability, you may be able to join those rooms on there. Like I said before, really we should just be ears. What we shouldn't be doing is contributing to the noise. What we shouldn't be doing is possibly raising security risks by getting too involved. This is purely ears only. That's my advice. That's my take on it at the moment. So there's a list here of some DMR frequencies that are worth tuning into. You don't necessarily have to have DMR equipment or D-Star equipment. Some of these rooms you can find a live feed on the internet. So the way that DMR and D-Star works is that I can transmit from this location here to a local repeater station up on the hill. That repeater station may also be connected to the internet. So not only can that repeat my VHF UHF signal locally, it'll also feed that into a electronic room, a DMR room or D-Star room, through a server basically. Now if the internet is still running in a lot of these places, we may get activity through those rooms, so that's why I'm just highlighting them for the moment. On HF, this is where it can get a bit tricky. We may find that certain frequencies are going to be allocated to help out with the emergency. With the ban on amateur radio, I'm not sure this is going to work in this case, but there may be some frequencies allocated on certain times of the day purely for monitoring for emergency broadcasts or emergency communications. Please be mindful of them. Whether you're interested in listening for any activity in the Ukraine, just if you're an amateur radio operator, just look out for any frequencies that have been held and avoid them. Just let them get on with it. But we may find as time goes on that CW, Morse code, maybe even applications like JS8 call may be used as well. It's unknown how this is going to pan out, whether people will actually use HF radio as part of the fallout, the emergency situation. Just be mindful it may do, and it's maybe just best to keep an eye on that and avoid that. In my previous video, I was up in the Peak District in the remote barn that I use up there when I was tuning in to the Russian ground force transmission frequencies, and there's a number of them. I'll put a link in below to where you can find those stations. They're still going, they're still running. It'll be interesting if you've got an interest in that, is maybe tune into them as well, because their activity may change. I don't know what they do when they're in a state of war, whether they just keep to the same broadcast schedules or not. I don't know. Other types of transmissions, especially on the HF, not in the amateur bands, in between the amateur bands, we may see an increase of activity, not just from the Russian forces and the Ukraine and neighbours, but from NATO. So we may see an increase of military transmissions, completely encrypted. In some ways we feel very lucky. We just sit here with all our radio equipment, with an interest in what's happening, but for those people that are experiencing it, it's nightmarish, and that really is worrying. I realise this is not the typical video from me, but normal service will be resumed as soon as possible. My next video, I'm hoping to get out and listen to nature's radio signals with just some simple equipment. So that's all organised. I'm just waiting for a break in the weather to get outdoors and do that. And I look forward to that one, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. So bye bye for now.